Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders, the great millstone who rule well. And salutations to all you brothers out there pushing this word in love, truth, sincerity, and humility. Once again, it's the brother Shakti from the Chicago camp coming back to you with what I hope is another quick and edifying sit down. And I finally had a chance to watch the Forever Purge movie on Sunday. And actually, I have to say it's not bad. It really wasn't. It's as bad as people make it out to be. I wouldn't say it's the best of the Purge movies, but it was definitely okay. And what I liked about the movie, I mean, there's many things that you could talk about in this movie, but the main thing that I liked or I enjoyed about the movie, The Forever Purge, was the fact that this was the first movie where you had a full representation of all the tribes of Israel. Because in the previous Purge movies, yeah, you did have the northern and the southern kingdom together, battling for survival against the two-thirds and bad Uncle Esau and the other heathen nations. But it was usually, so-called Negro, and then you just had Hispanics, so-called Hispanics. Okay, you didn't see, our fellow Gadite or Reubenite brothers. But in the Forever Purge, we did see that representation of Gad and Reuben. And so this was the first movie that you will see that had a full representation of the tribes of Israel, where you had a so-called black man and you had so-called Hispanics and you had so-called Native Americans in there fighting together. Okay? And it reminded me of the precept in Amos 9, where it says, "In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old." Okay? And that's not talking about an actual tabernacle, an actual building. It's talking about people. All right, you remember there was the one example where Yahweh Shai told them wicked ass people that, hey, if you tear this temple down, I'll rebuild it in 3 days. And they was looking at him crazy, like, what the hell is this dude talking about? He destroyed a temple and he's going to rebuild it back in 3 days, knowing that it took us years to rebuild the temple. And then later on, the scripture tells you that Yahweh Shai was referring to himself. Okay? So in this situation, it's not talking about a physical tabernacle. It's talking about a people, a spiritual tabernacle, meaning that the Lord is bringing back the tribes. He is bringing the northern and southern kingdom back together. And it showed that in this movie, and even in the real world, you see the tribes coming back together. Okay, you see it first and foremost with the brothers who are worshiping Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai in love, truth, and sincerity. Okay? And then the vibration of this truth is so strong that it's even wearing off on the two-thirds. Because granted, they don't believe, they don't care about believing. But the thing is, when we go out on the highways and byways and teach, the things that we say about as far as it regarding oppression, a woman being over a man, this draconian legislation, struggling and striving to make it day after day in a system that for every dollar you make, you got to pay two. All right, that type of, I guess for a lack of a better phrase, rhetoric, that type of speech, that type of truth, that resonates with the two-thirds. This police brutality, that registers with them. And it's that type of truth that's even bringing them back together. When has there been any time in history where you have seen the tribes come together like this? Okay? It's a beautiful thing, especially amongst the men that know that they're Israelites and doing this work in love, truth, sincerity, and humility. It's a very beautiful thing to watch. And like I said, man, you had the representation of Gad, and it was showing Gad getting it in on them Edomites, man, because them Edomites in that movie, they had that ancient hatred and bloodlust on them, but Gad was getting in that ass. And that's why we're going to go to Genesis, I believe that's the 49th chapter, when Israel was given the blessing to all of the tribes. Genesis 49 and 19. It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And as the scripture clearly tells you, Esau is the end of the world. So if we're at the end of bad Uncle Esau's kingdom, that means this prophecy has to come to pass, where you're going to have our so-called Native American brothers come up and start joining us in masses. And that's what you saw in that movie, The Forever Purge, where not only did you have the Southern Kingdom getting it in, not only did you have the Northern Kingdom, the Issacharites get it in, but man, you had Gad going in, and they were skilled with the bow. It was a beautiful thing to watch. I think that's also a let me do skill and bow, because I believe that's also another blessing that was given to them. Let me put it on pause. I might be mistaken, but let me put it on pause and see if I can find it. Yeah. Oh yeah, here it is. I found it. 1 Chronicles 5 and 18. And it says, the sons of Reuben and the Gadites, okay, who were represented in the Forever Purge, and half the tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot the bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. Yeah. And in that movie, they showed you that, man, Gad was crucial with that bow and arrow. Just hitting people from yards away. Didn't even see it coming. Sneak attacks. You name it. Gad and Reuben was doing it in the Forever Purge. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And this movie is, from what I read, a precursor that's going to be happening worldwide, because I happened to one day search on the interweb about if they're going to make a Purge 6, and they said yes, they are going to make a Purge 6 movie, but they needed to do this movie so they can open up the Purge world to where you will be having violence everywhere across the world. And so what do you have going on right now in the world? You have protests, you have uproars, and you have riots happening right now. Even though it's not getting a lot of media coverage, these things are happening right now in the world. You just have to do your diligent research and go find it out. And that's why I believe we're going to go to 2nd Ezra and probably finish it out on this. I thought it was in Ezra. That's not it. Let me see, because this is really what's going to be going down, where you're just going to have mass civil unrest going on everywhere. Can't find it, but 2nd Ezra 15 is still always good. 2nd Ezra 15 and 14, and it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hand." And that's what you had going on the entire movie. You had everybody getting it in on everybody. But in particular, the main folks that folks were trying to get at were Israelites. And that's what you're going to have in the very near future when this economy collapses, when folks don't have jobs, when folks can't get food and water, when they don't have access to appropriate health care and schools. And now you got these governors and these senators and these mayors bringing forth more draconian legislation to bring forth door-to-door searches and rules to make it mandatory that you got to get the VID code 91. And so all of these things are going to culminate to a scenario where you're going to have civil unrest everywhere, so much to the point where it says, "For there shall be sedition, violent uprising among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And that's what you had in the movie. They sent in the military. Was it the NFFA, the New Founding Fathers of America? They sent in the military to try to quell this uprising of people who didn't want to stop Purge, but in the end, it failed. The army got overtaken by the people. And they're showing you this in the movie. They're showing you that when that time comes, all hell is going to be breaking loose. I believe that's an old Kiss song. But seriously, all hell is going to be breaking loose. And this movie shows you a lot of things that are going to be taking place in the very near future, and a lot of prophecies that are taking place right now, as I said, as far as civil unrest and the ultimate coming back together of the tribes. It's a beautiful movie. You know, I suggest that all you out can watch it. It's very, very spiritual. I mean, all the Purge movies are spiritual, but nonetheless, it's a good watch. As I said, it's not as bad as people say it was, but definitely not the best movie in the Purge series. So if you have some time on your day off, or you know, you just got some free time on your hands where you've already done your reading and you've done some videos, hey, check out the Purge. Definitely worth the watch. So I hope you all were edified, and until next time, we're going to say shalom.